The census report released recently indicates that 75% of the Kenyan population is below the age of 35, making Kenya a youthful country.
But are these numbers reflecting in the workforce, positions of leadership, or even in the policies the country makes?
Martin Munene engages a group of young people in Nyeri County about these numbers. Good morning, Wanyama. Good morning, Munene, and thank you for joining us from Nyeri County this morning. So we see these numbers, of course, the questions that what is the stake of the young people in this country that the minority would appear above 35, but they are the ones that make decisions for the young people.
The results released last week of the census, young people under the age of 34 are more than 75% of this country. But on policy making and policies that are more concerned more on the young people, they are underlooked at. Since there have been different bills taken to the parliament. Since last year, there are two bills. One, it's on the requirements when a young person is applying for a job. Those are the clearances, all the clearances. You see, when a young person is applying for a job, which they are not assured they will get, they are needed at around 5,000 per application. This is for the clearance certificate from the DCI, the CRB clearance, and all other things of the sort. But you see, when this bill that was pushed by the women rep of Nyandarua to bring out these things to the young people, the legislators themselves were not there to pass this bill. So we see we are underrepresented. And on the other hand, it's last week there's on this bill of the NYC bill that was tabled in Parliament late last week. You see, the legislators themselves were not there to check on it or to pass it for it to help the young people.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. He says that there have been policies brought in Parliament or laws. There was no one to pass them. We speak to someone else very briefly.
As a young person, I don't feel like I'm represented well, because in Parliament, Gideon Keter is the youth representative in the Parliament, but the issues that he brings on board doesn't touch on the youth. So we need good representation, and you can see the BBI rallies are all over, but the voices of the Kenyan youth are not heard at all. So we need representation. Our voices must be heard, should be heard. And as you can see in the government, during the elections, youth campaigns are very expensive. So it becomes very hard for a youth to vie for a certain seat. And kama kwa system, if the system doesn't want you, you won't be there. So our youth, we need representation from the people we voted for, and I think this Kenya will be good.
All right. This up the issue of employment very briefly.
Good morning. My name is Mudhoni Wanjao. I come from Nyeri County. I'm a young person. And on the issue of unemployment, I feel that the government has really failed the youth of Kenya, because previously, in the previous regime, during Kibaki's time, there was a lot of creation of jobs, and especially in the informal sector, because there was a lot of action and less talk. But in the current establishment, we have too much talk and very little action. We have people who are sitting in offices and just talking about creation of jobs by the young people, about self-employment, yet they are doing very little to improve the situation for the young people. Because like right now, everybody's talking about skills training and skills development. But I feel, according to me, it is a bubble which is just going to burst at some point. Because after all, if we have all the young people with some skill, then what do they do after that? Because I'm imagining there should be a policy where the the young people should be empowered with toolkits after their training, so that if you're talking about youth empowerment and self-employment, so that this young person walks out with a toolkit from his college or from his tertiary institution and is able to create that employment. Because if you tell this young person to go create employment for himself or herself, and he doesn't have the funds to buy these toolkits, which also could be quite expensive, then what are we telling the young people? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like you've had three major issues. They are touching on the issue of policy representation, but also the whole issue about jobs. It's interesting that people who tell young people to create employments themselves sit in parliaments or in offices asking young people to actually create jobs, yet they are people who are paid using taxpayers' money. And also the question of when you're looking for a job, there are documents that you require. These are documents that require money. And as a young person who's looking for a job, I don't know where you're supposed to get that money to get the clearances that are needed for you to even get a chance of being able to apply for a job. From Nyeri County, I bring it back to in studio Sam and Zinzi. I'm Martin Monene.
All right, thank you so much, Martin Munena. A very interesting conversation, bearing in mind that, as you say, yes, 75.1%, that's about 35.7 million Kenyans are below the age of 35. But also it's important to note that 17 million of those are between the ages of 3 and about the upper limit of early 20s,
yes,
who are currently in school. So it's what you would call a dependent population, 17 million.
About 4 years ago, the median age in Kenya was about 19 years old. That now changes to about 20 years old now, the median age being in Kenya. Just tells you that that's 75% of the population in country. Those are people between the ages of 18 and 35.